Welcome back to Tutorial Tidbits. I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and this week I'm going to show you how to add a interesting and unique vignetted darkened edge to an antique ephemera background, which makes a great base for a colorful collage. So I've got some tips and techniques and specific supplies for this lesson. So always remember that the supply lists links are in your upper right hand corner. And also, if you are interested in receiving my tutorial tidbits, say that 5 times fast, as a blog post to your email inbox with description of supplies and links to individual supplies, a nice packaged blog post. If you're interested in receiving that, sign up for my newsletter. That's in the upper right hand corner as well. And now, let's go check it out. Welcome back to the studio. So this week I am going to be creating an antiqued ephemera background for a collage. I'm going to keep my colors antiqued because I'm going for an old background. So I'm going to dig through my drawer of collage fodder, and I'm going to look for stuff that is oxidized and yellow. I'm going to be using golden soft gel gloss as my glue. I'm going to be using yellowed oxidized papers from my stash that I collect constantly of old letters, books, farmers' almanacs, envelopes. I have a German letterpress antique German Bible. I have addressed envelopes. I have card catalog cards. I have old postcards. I collect all this stuff. I buy it on eBay, on Etsy, and I have a ton of it that I can draw from. A lot of the times I use both light white and off-white papers if I'm going to do a coating over the whole background, but on this background, I'm going to leave it full strength and antiqued. So I'm definitely going for the yellowed pages. And the yellowing comes from oxidation. It comes from air being exposed to old paper. So once we seal this paper up with the soft gel gloss and adhere it to the board, it's not going to oxidize any further because it won't be getting any more air. So it's going to stay this level of yellow. All right, so I'm going to be drawing from this bin. I'm going to be working on Frederick's cradled canvas board. I like this product because it's a primed canvas surface, so I don't have to do any prep. I don't have to gesso it. It's a cradled board, so it's got a 1-inch cradle, and it's got a deep well on the back where we're going to put the hanging hardware. So this is 12 by 12. I have set out my ephemera that I'm going to use. And again, I'm going to be using a golden soft gel gloss. And this is a Princeton Catalyst flat. And it is a polytip bristle. And it is the only brush that I use. It's a big brush. It's probably about 2 inches across. But it's the only brush that I use to glue ephemera down to the base layer because it's the same bristle, the same rigid bristle with a lot of spring that I use to apply the collage paper. My small Princeton Catalyst Filbert number 8 short handle that is my only glue brush. This is the same brush bristle, but this is about 2 inches across, and it's a thick layer of bristles and a big sturdy handle because we have to apply a lot of pressure down now that we are gluing down larger pieces of paper. It's very important to have this big brush. If you try to glue these larger pieces of paper with a small brush, sometimes you get a lot of wrinkling. We don't want any wrinkling in this background. So this brush is going to be tight to go into this container. And I don't want to damage the bristles on the outer edge of the brush by bumping them into the container. So I'm going to suggest that you take your soft gel gloss out of the container and put it on a palette sheet. So you can just brush it up off a palette sheet and you don't damage this brush. I buy soft gel gloss by the gallon. So I have a gallon container and I have no worry about damaging my brush. But if you don't have a gallon container, I don't want you to, again, ruin the bristles on the edges. So scoop it out onto a paper plate or a sheet of palette paper and use it from there. So the first thing we're going to do is get a little bit of this gel in the top left-hand corner because that's where I'm going to start. And you really have to make sure that you pull it out to the full corner. A lot of times when you're brushing, you don't get it out to the full corner, and you end up with stuff that's curling in the points. So make sure, in addition to getting it everywhere, you drag a good amount of it out to the edges and the top corner. And the first piece that I'm going to put down is an old payroll check. A payroll check from 1966. Now, the thing that I have to be worried about is the writing that's on here. Sometimes pen and ink bleeds. It gets reactivated with water. So if you have pen and ink, you might want to try a little test with it. Rub it with a little water to see if it's going to bleed, so that you don't get a big smeared mess. So I'm going to lay this into the glue and slide it. And you can't really slide it for too long because the glue starts setting up right away. But I am going to try to slide it so that I'm right up to the edge. Because this is a nice square piece, it's not right at the edge. It'll line up right at the edge. Some of the stuff that I tear or rip myself doesn't always make a good clean edge. So I will sometimes choose pieces that go nice and square to go at the edge. So here we go. So now we're going to take more glue and we're going to press down over this. And we're going to wipe up the excess glue. And we're going to press it sideways. And we're going to press it the long way. And we're going to spread a decent amount of glue on top. You want to definitely spread a decent amount of glue on top, because what that does is it helps to get it to glue down flat, because that glue on top is going to dry tight and it's going to help pull this down flat. So you want to put a decent layer of glue on top. So then the next sheet that I've got has got a rough edge like this. So I definitely wouldn't want to put that at the edge of the board, but I'm going to overlap this one a little bit with this. So I'm going to, again, make sure I bring it out to the edges. Put a decent layer of glue on there, lay this in, make sure it lines up at the top and that there's no white showing through. So we'll bring this over a little bit more, which made it a little crooked. There we go. And then brush over the top. That's pretty dark. Some papers, when they get wet with glue, get even darker. So we're just going to continue with the same process. I like this this 1-inch cradled board, and I will just paint the edges. I'm going to wipe off some glue here. I'll paint the edges a solid color. If you're working on a 2-inch cradled panel, you can put the paper around the edges as well. So you can always put paper around the edges, or you can paint the edges a solid color, or you could tape these off and save them as nice clean wood, and then you could stain them. There's a lot of different ways you can treat the edge. Okay, so I'm going to apply more glue. And I set my papers out how I wanted to lay them out on the board and then set them aside. So I arranged them how I wanted to have them, roughly how I wanted to have them on the board, and then I set them aside. You can do that. You can arrange them roughly how you want them on the board and take a photo. So you remember what goes where, and then take them off, or you can just wing it. You can just grab a stack of papers and just glue them as you go. Here's an old addressed envelope. You know it's old because it only says Turner Sisters, Derby, Iowa. I mean, that's the whole address. So I'm going to put that right here. Now you'll notice that this overlapped that a little bit. It is okay to overlap, and I overlap this one over that. They don't have to line up perfectly. They can overlap. Remember that you're applying a lot of pressure with this brush. This rigid bristle brush, and a lot of pressure and a wide stroke is what you need to get all of this to go down nice and flat. All right, so my next piece is here. And remember, we're putting a decent amount of glue over the top of every piece. So that's going to go right there. No, I needed it. I've got a card catalog here that I wanted to use, but it's got so much blank space down at the bottom that I thought I would overlap it. You do want to clean the glue off the edges as you go along so that you don't end up with a big, rough, hard blob of glue on the edge. So be sure to clean off your edges. Now we can put this on top. This one's got a little wrinkling in it, so I'm pressing down really hard and smoothing that out. And I'm going to keep my eye on previous pieces, and if they start to wrinkle, I will press them down as well. So keep your eye on previously glued down things to see if you need to apply another layer of pressure while they're setting up with the glue. Now I have this cool little old playing card. This is thicker paper and it's a little rigid, so it's going to require a little bit of extra glue layer to go on, and I'm going to put that right out here at the edge. So because my subject is going to be probably for the most part in the center, if there are particular things that you want to make sure that you can see that your subject doesn't cover, then you're going to put those out on the peripheral edge. So I'm putting this playing card out on this edge because I want it to show up. If I put it up in here, odds are it's going to get covered by my subject to some degree, if not completely. So you want to put things that you want to see or want to remain seen in the composition out towards the edges. So here I've got this great handwritten letter. I have not tested this, so let's hope it doesn't bleed. And I want to see some of this handwriting, so I'm going to put this out at the edge. Actually, that is not going right down, so I'm going to flip this around so I can make use of the machined straight edge of this letter and get it right to the corner of the board and press. Okay, so these stamps are another item. They are kind of white, but I'm going to use them anyway because I thought that these looked antiqued and I want those to show up, so I'm going to put those out on this edge. Okay, so next, down here, so if you wanted to wrap the paper around the edge, this has a little bit of a flap. You just put glue on the edge and you just press with the brush around the corner. You just wrap it right around the corner and press on the side and press on the corner with the brush. So press on the corner, press on the edge, press on the front. If you want to wrap the edges with the paper, you just bring it around. Okay. Now I've got this kind of nice plain piece of paper. Put that in here. And an address. So some small pieces are definitely in order. You don't have to do all big pieces. And you can also come back once you've got big pieces and add some small pieces on top. But I like to have a range of size of pieces. So I've got a couple long ones here, a short one here, a horizontal one here, and so on. So a little variety of sizes and shapes is good. This is a little light, but it's still in the off-white family. So there is the ephemera background. You want to make sure that if any of your glue gets a little tainted, this was like a dirty sheet and it tinted my glue a little bit dirty. So I'm going to make sure I just throw this glue away so that I don't have a contaminated bucket of glue. So let's do that. I'm going to set that aside just on the brush. And then the next step that I do with something like this, again, I'm gonna look for, there's a little bubble there, so I'm actually gonna add some more glue on the top of the whole thing right now. Just to make sure the whole thing has a good coat of glue on top of it and applying some more pressure. But once you've done this and you've really pressed down on every piece and put glue under and over and smoothed out every piece to the best of your ability, let it dry overnight. Some little level of bubbles will generally dry flat because of the top layer of glue, but it takes 24 hours. So we're going to set this aside and then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to antique the edge in a vignette to give it even more of that kind of cool antique effect. So here I'm using a Ranger Archival ink, acid-free, permanent, and waterproof sepia ink pad. These properties are important. We want it to be permanent and waterproof. Permanent means it won't fade, and waterproof means it's not going to move. So when we put this vignetted edge on, when we put collage and varnish over the whole thing, we definitely don't want this to smear. So that's why we're going to use this archival ink pad that's permanent, waterproof, and acid-free. What I'm going to apply it with is the Ranger Mini Ink Blending Tool. Now this is a little stamper with a foam edge that you can stamp into the pad and softly stamp. So this is what I'm going to be using for that. But I've got a little bit of a dirty pad on here, and you can wash these out. They come off with Velcro, and you can wash these out and reuse them several times, but you can also get refills. So I've got a nice clean refill so that I'm sure that I don't get any blue in my sepia tone on my Mini Ink Blending Tool by Ranger. So I've got the a different version of the ephemera background, and it's all glued down and dry. It's been dry for days. So I'm going to take the stamp pad, and I'm just going to dab the mini ink tool into it until I can get a decent amount of sepia on it. And then I'm going to lightly, and going to the corner and forward, so on the angle. So you're going to hit it on the corner angle like this at a 45, and then come forward. And you need to have a light touch and move kind of quickly so that you can make sure that it's a soft edge and that you don't see a lot of the round crescent of the blending tool. So you want to keep moving your hand and softening what you put down. And you can make a soft light layer, and then you can come around and darken it. But you definitely want to do that 45 degree on the corner. That gives it a nice dark corner. And then you can come in a little bit lighter and a little bit softer. And this is just going to give us a really nice vignetted edge on this off-white or antique ephemera. And it's a beautiful base for a flower or a bird collage or whatever suits your fancy. This is a neutral background, even though it's got some things going on in it. It's really what I consider to be kind of a nice neutral color background. So it offsets a colorful subject really nicely. Even though there's a little bit of color in here with the postage stamps, it's pretty neutral, and it's really going to let your colored subject kind of shine. So again, I'm going to make sure I'm on that angle, that 45 degree angle, so that I get it a little bit darker right at the edge. That just makes it a little bit darker right at the edge, and also make sure that your color comes all the way out to the edge. And you can soften and come in and out. You want to have sort of a wandering edge. You want to make it just so that it kind of rolls in and out. It's wider in some places than others. And this ink is nice and transparent, so we're not losing the readability of anything that it goes over. And it's nice that you have to do a couple layers to get it to be dark. It's not going to go too dark too fast. So let's make sure I got this corner. So that is a beautiful vignetted edge on an antique ephemera background that will be perfect for a colorful single subject. And it's the Ranger Archival ink pad in sepia tone with the mini ink blending tool. Happy Friday, and thank you for being here. The best way to clean your brushes and to preserve the bristles and to keep an expensive brush good for a long time is to clean it properly with the Master's brush cleaner. Now, this tub is certainly a mess and worse for wear. This is the studio size tub, and I have had it for years, which is why I've probably had it for over 2 years, definitely over 2 years, which is why it's so worn out and beat up. But what I love about this product in the tub is that the per ounce price is far more reasonable in the big tub than in the small container, first of all. But secondly, I can certainly get my big bristle brush right in here and clean it, as well as my even wider varnish brushes and gesso brushes all fit in here for cleaning, which is what I want to be able to do. I can't get these brushes in the small tub as easily, again, without potentially grabbing and ruining the ones on the outer edges. So there's a little bit of water in here, but basically what I do with this, it's a soap cake. So this is all that I've got left. Basically, this is all that I've got left. When you get it, it's full to the top. So soon I'll need another one, but still, this is a lot. It'll last me a while, still longer. So I'm going to take the brush and I'm going to swirl it around in the soap cake. I'm going to brush it over the soap cake and I'm going to get a lot of good soap in it. And this goes for your small glue brushes as well. It's real important that you clean the glue brush out really well. Glue is not like paint. It's grabbed in there and it wants to stay clogged in there. It's a lot more difficult to get out than just paint. So we're gonna make sure we wash it, get a lot of soap in it, and then we're gonna swirl it around. Sometimes I swirl it in the palm of my hand. I've seen people who take a tennis ball and cut it in half and swirl it in the open tennis ball. That's kind of a clever trick, but I just use it in the palm of my hand and I swirl it circularly like this. And that's going to force the soap down into the bristles. So that pressing and swirling, pressing into your hand and swirling is forcing the soap down into the bristles. Then I'm going to take my thumbs and really work it up here near the ferrule, back here, because the glue tends to jam back up here. So you really want to get the soap as back down towards the ferrule as possible, rubbing it and then swirling it and getting it back and forth, flexing it back and forth and really working this in. And then you just rinse it out with warm water and you will really keep your brush a long time really good with the Masters brush cleaner. And the big tub, again, is the way to go. So it's about $30, I think, but it's definitely a worthwhile investment. It keeps your brushes better than washing with just regular soap and water, because it's a brush cleaner, restorer, and conditioner. So it will get a dried product out as well. If you have a little bit of dried glue in there, it will get out. It also conditions the bristles. You can leave this in the brush. You don't have to rinse it out right now. You can pull all the bristles together and leave this in the brush and it'll hold the shape of the head. And then when you're ready to use it next time, you just rinse it out. But it'll dry with the bristles restored, the shape, and it'll keep them tight together. And then you just rinse it out before you use it next time. And that's a nice way to keep the head of your brush really nice and the bristles lined up. So the Masters brush cleaner, definitely to get out your glue products like your Liquitex Gloss Gel Medium or your Soft Gel Gloss. It also, of course, gets out paint and dry paint, but it is the best for keeping the glue brushes clean. After I get all that glue spread on my ephemera background, despite the fact that I try to keep it off of my hands, and my hands are clean right now, but glue and paint, the thing that I really like the most, people ask me, how do I get the glue off my fingers? That's one of my most commonly asked questions. So there are a couple of ways you can do that. The first thing you can do is pick and peel the glue off your fingers or roll it and slough it off your fingers, because acrylic paint and acrylic glue, they do not reactivate with water. So they're not going to wash off like a watercolor would, because they don't get reactivated with water. What you have to do is figure out how to get it to slough off and roll off and peel off, because you just need to break it down enough to get it off. So one way you can do that is with hand sanitizer, because hand sanitizer has alcohol in it, and alcohol does break down acrylic paint. So hand sanitizer will cause the paint to slough and roll up, and then you can rinse it off like that. But I found that a lot of hand sanitizer dries my hands out. Also, I have a lot of hangnails, and the hand sanitizer really hurts that. So the product that I found that I like a lot for cleaning my hands is this scrubby bar. It removes paint, oil, and dirt, grease and more, as it says on the cover. And basically what it is it's a citrus cleaner, and it smells really orange, and it's got the power of citrus to clean it, and it's got this scrub surface, but the scrub surface goes all the way through the bar. So as you're scrubbing and washing, you'll reveal that this scrub surface goes all the way through the bar. So the glycerin and the citrus in this soap is moisturizing. It doesn't dry your hands out like the hand sanitizer does, if that's a problem for you. And the scrubby part of this will really get the scrub up and slough up acrylic paint and the glue. So I love this product for that, the scrubby bar. They're available on my Amazon shopping page, and They're great, and I think they come in a 2-pack. I really like them. They last a long time, and in a pinch, you can even clean your brushes on the back of this. I mean, in a pinch, I have used this to clean my brushes on the back of, before the scrubby, or on the scrubby part. You can do both, but I do prefer the Master's Brush Cleaner for the brushes, but in a pinch, if I'm on the road and or the only thing I have is this, it works well for that too. So that is the Scrubby Natural Soap Infused Scrubber.